3, 2, 1.
Welcome to episode 140 of the Family Answer Man podcast. Today we're talking about the challenge of internet and technology addiction from a biblical worldview. I am your host, David Orgis, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby. He is a pastor, educator, mental health professional, and the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man. Now, Family Answer Man is not a therapy session. We can't give you specific advice to your unique situations, but we do believe that spiritual and mental health are very serious, and want to encourage you to seek professional counsel for any questions that you might have beyond this show and this episode. Before we jump in today, if you would hit the notification bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would help us out a lot, helps get the show out to more people, and as always, you can share the show directly with your family and your friends so they can join you on your journey of building a stronger, healthier, and happier family. Well, Dr. Mark, good to be back with you today.
Good to be here.
It got a great question that I think is really kind of at the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
Right.
This is
really
an issue talking about internet and technology addiction that has affected so many. But I think there are still a lot of people that don't, when they hear the word addiction, don't think of the internet or technology as something that's addictive. They think more of substances that they would take. But is that something that
there's a lot of debate over how one would define addiction.
Okay.
Many will say that addiction is something that you ingest, something, some sort of substance, alcoholism, meth, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of countries even that are saying that there's such a thing as behavioral addiction, which we'll talk about more in a moment. For example, gambling would be considered a behavioral addiction. Some would say work can be addictive. We've all heard of people, who are, addictive to their work. A lot of pastors who are listening may be addictive to their work, and they will just try to disguise that by saying, well, I'm serving, I'm ministering, I'm doing, God's work, and they are, which is important. But you can, again, be so addicted to something that it begins to disrupt what is healthy, what is important as far as family. It disrupts what is meaningful as far as relationships. And so the point is that, as we've said before, Jesus took a Sabbath rest, if you will. Jesus took a nap, if you will. And so the point is that individuals, whether it be work, whether it be, again, gambling, whether it be something along those lines, it can be addictive. An addiction basically is anything that takes over and keeps you from living a healthy, balanced life.
Okay, so anything that takes over, keeping you from living that healthy, balanced life and disrupts what's healthy, important, and meaningful.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's a great segue into our question for today. And if you have a question that you want to have answered, we can do that. We'd love to get your questions. We love hearing them. We love answering them.
Sure.
You can email us at familyanswerman@liveoak.church is our email address, familyanswerman@liveoak.church, and we can get your questions answered for you. The question that we have today says my church's student pastor seems to think that my teen is addicted to the internet. So what does that look like, and what can be done if that's happening?
Yeah, so teachers, student pastors, counselors, other mental health professionals are noticing that, again, that there is such a thing as this obsession or addiction to technology among our students. Basically, those between, say, 10 to 20 years old. Some even older, some even younger. And so the reality, as we said earlier, that behavioral addictions are real. And basically what that means is anything that takes over your life, anything that disrupts what is healthy, anything that hurts what is meaningful as far as relationships, and anything that takes over a person's lifestyle can be considered some level of some form of addiction. Now, we all know that the internet is a way of life. I mean, by what we're doing today, and is a way of life. We're doing podcasts, we're on the internet. It's a way of life, just like the radio was a way of life 75 years ago, just like TV was a way of life 55 years ago. I mean, everybody watched TV all night long. Back in the 60s and 70s, everybody had their programs. Everybody knew the channel. Everybody knew the time things came on. And the radio the same way 75 years ago. And today it's the internet, and there's a lot of positives about the internet. I mean, we all know what they are. I mean, during COVID and even today, you can work from home if you have access to the internet. There are business starts that happen because of internet. You can do sales and marketing over the internet. There's unlimited information.
Right.
Unlimited information. I mean, anything you want to know about is a few click of the keys and you are ready to go as far as knowledge. It helps you to stay in touch. If your kids move away, or if your parents move away, or whatever it may be, if you're off to college, you can stay in touch, and basically see and talk and share and give information and share recipes, and the list could go on. You stay in touch. And not only that, but as far as the church is concerned, you get out the gospel. I mean, how many people have deepened their faith by listening to various podcasts of great ministers and pastors? And so the reality is that there's a lot of positives to the internet. So we don't want to discourage that or deride that reality. There's a lot of wonderful things. However, there's some negatives.
Okay.
And the negatives, basically, and we all know these, that it impacts your physical health. I mean, if a person spends too much time on the internet, we'll talk about this more in a moment, it begins to affect you cognitively, begins to affect you physically. I mean, you lead just a more sedentary life. You don't get out and walk as much or do as much or exercise as much or get fresh air or whatever it may be. For some, it can lead to depression. We'll talk about that more in a moment, as it causes you to compare your life to the life of those around you.
Yeah.
How is it they seem to have all the vacations to Jamaica every other weekend, it seems like, or they have the perfect kids who make straight A's, or they're always winning the ball games, and why don't we have that kind of lifestyle? And so this comparison creates depression. Creates introverts. No one gets out anymore. No one socializes. No one goes over to friends' homes. Nobody invites. No one rides their bikes in the neighborhood. No one, does these things. And it reduces also self-esteem. Again, because you are limiting yourself and learning new skills. When the internet became really, really popular, a lot of people began to do less activities, shooting baskets, out in the yard or out in the driveway with their kids, or, learning how to do other things, going fishing or whatever it may be, because all you want to do is hang out behind your computer. And it reduces that self-esteem. And self-esteem, I'll argue, is built upon learning new things, new activities, gaining new skills, meeting new challenges, etc. Some interesting studies have come out recently concerning the addiction of the internet or addictive behaviors. There seems to be a correlation between screen time and language development among kids.
So there's a correlation between screen time and language development.
So when a child spends too much time, in those early formative years behind, some sort of screen, whether it be the laptop or other, devices they may have, it has shown to, again, reduce their ability to develop their language or to speak clearly or positively or learn new words or whatever it may be. And that's a real concern among teachers, among counselors. And not only that, but in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence, there's a correlation between social media and suicide among teenage girls.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of concerns there as there's things happening between whether it be friendships or whether it be relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend. Of course, we'll talk about this more in a moment, but cyberbullying is a real issue that has led to the suicide of a lot. One thing recently that I ran across in a peer-reviewed article, and that was there's these individuals that will create these moments, so to speak, where these teenage boys and sometimes teenage girls will send pictures of themselves, okay? And then what will happen is that these individuals who receive these pictures will now threaten them, blackmail them, if you will, extortion, so to speak, and say, if you don't send us money, if you don't do this or do that, we will, send these images to your teacher, to your pastor, to your friends, to your parents, to whomever. And so what happens is there has been a series of suicides among these adolescent males because they have been caught up in this scheme. And it's both males and females, but recently, according to this article, it was more males than females, at least at this moment. And that's disturbing.
Yeah.
to see, these adolescents, lose their life over this.
Yeah.
And the fact that there would be people out there, both in our nation, of course, and this is another thing, internationally, that would do this.
Yeah, and exploit them.
And exploit them in this way. And they feel like there's no way out. They feel like there's no hope. They feel like there's no other alternative. And so they take their life. And we're talking about athletes. We're talking about kids who are top of their class. We're talking about, kids who are in the youth program of church. We're talking about kids who have some even, have submitted to ministry, so to speak, and they get caught up in this sort of thing, and before they know it, they are exposed, or they feel like they're being exposed, and they feel like they're being extorted, and so they take their life because they feel like there's no way out. So there's a correlation between social media and seems to be the increased suicide among adolescents, even especially girls. The American Academy of Pediatrics suggests, therefore, limiting your screen time to 1 hour for ages 2 to 5. So the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests, no more than 1 hour. If you have a child between age 2 and 5, that should be it, no more than 1 hour, because if not, it does begin to impact them, as we'll see in a moment, cognitively, neurologically, speech development, etc.
Yeah, and you can tell that I have young kids,
right?
And if they're on a screen too long, you can just tell behavioral adjustments into the negative,
right,
just in the short term. Just
right.
And it's an amazing direct correlation, and that's less anecdotal or more anecdotal and less.
And the thing is that we've seen this, with parents, and I'm not judging, I'm not shaming, I'm not guilting, but I'm simply saying that for a lot of parents, of young children, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're trying to get dinner done, they're trying to, work from home, the little guys running around, and so, the mom says, "Here's your tablet,
digital babysitter.
Here's your tablet, here's a movie, here's your tablet, watch this, figure this out. Here's your tablet. Here's your," and so little guy just gets and all of a sudden he is just obsessed over what's happening on the screen, and 1 hour turns to 2, and 2 hours turns to 4, and before you know it, he spent 5 or 6 hours just in front of that little tablet, and it becomes the instant, pacifier.
Yeah, and it's I think the short-term returns of having a child's behavior. They're quiet. They're not, disrupting things.
Right.
But there's a lot of long-term risk.
Yeah, and mom can get some work done if she's working from home. Dad can, go cut the grass and not worry about, the little guy,
the house being on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
They're in front of their tablet. So here's some effects of cell phone overuse.
Okay.
So the effects of cell phone overuse. So we all have the cell phone. We all love our cell phones. Keeps us in touch. But here's the effects of cell phone overuse. Number one, muscle pain. You're not exercising as much. You're not doing as much. And so therefore, you start maybe having pain in your shoulders and your neck and your lower back. Blurred vision. Becomes now an effect of cell phone overuse. Loss of interest in other activities. I mean, used to, when you had some free time, you would do something, outdoors, do something maybe even indoors that was productive, maybe read a book even, but read your Bible even. But now you've lost interest of those activities because your phone's in your hand and you're trying to figure out what's going on, in, Tokyo, and you're trying to figure out or who's doing what or what's the latest relationship in Hollywood. And so what happens is you have this loss of interest in other activities. Not only that, there's a feeling of lostness without your phone. I have seen people really, really have a total meltdown when they don't have their phone nearby.
Almost a panic attack.
Almost a panic attack.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, we understand that to some degree because, there's, phone calls you're waiting for. There's meetings that you're, trying to maybe create. There's, your calendar, all these things are on your phone. And without it, you feel a sense of loss. None of that, but there's a sense of irritability. When you don't have your phone nearby, you get irritable, you start checking your pocket, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone? And you're looking and so when you don't have it, you feel you're out of touch. And so there's this irritability that's being created. Here's some symptoms of cell phone addiction. So if you have some of these symptoms, you might be addicted to your cell phone. Number one, when you wake up in the middle of the night to check your phone. You're in a deep sleep, it's 2 a.m, and all of a sudden you wake up and you have to check your phone. It hadn't pinged, it's not ringing, but you just feel like you need to check it. Number two, when you have, as we said before, anxiety without your phone. If you can't leave your phone in the car when you go have dinner with your spouse, when you're sitting there at the table and you've purposely left your phone in the car, but you're feeling kind of anxious. I should be checking my phone. Maybe somebody's trying to call me. Maybe my kids are trying to text me. Maybe I should be checking the stock market. Maybe something happened in Washington, whatever. But you have this sense of anxiety without your phone. Instead of having a wonderful meal with your spouse, enjoying wonderful conversation, you have this anxiety. Thirdly, when you've used your phone to such a degree that's led to an injury or accident. When you've used your phone to such a degree, it's led to an injury or accident. For example, we all know that people have text and drive. And there's laws in some states that say, you cannot text and drive. There's various places where you are not allowed to have your phone in your hand, maybe school zones.
It's got to be hands-free.
Yeah, hands-free zones. So there's that sense of anxiety and that sense of concern. So because of that, you have your phone on you all the time, and you're constantly walking across parking lots,
right?
Looking at your phone, and you're not looking around you. Maybe you walk in front of a car, you trip over, a bumper or something like that.
People fall downstairs. There's all kinds of different things.
So if you've had an accident or injury because of cell phone use, you might be addicted to your cell phone. When it's caused you problems professionally or personally, when you have had your cell phone maybe in a meeting that you should not have had your cell phone, or maybe you're looking at things during a meeting, or maybe personally you texted somebody or received a text or sent a picture or something like that, or received a picture that was problematic. So when any time one of these things, has been a reality or a problem in your life, there may be a cell phone addiction going on. What makes our phone and our internet so addictive?
Right, because you're talking about all this, and I think people are probably listening and realizing, saying, yeah, it makes sense. I get it. I understand it. I maybe even see some of these symptoms in my own life or somebody I know.
Exactly. So what makes cell phone and the internet so addictive? Number one, it's accessible 24/7. It is accessible 24/7. It's always there. It's always there for you. It's always there to help you, so to speak. That's how we think about it. We stay in touch. We can be in touch with our kids. We can text. How are you doing? Did you get home safely? Whatever. And so it's accessible 24/7. In many cases, it's easy to use. You don't have to be an electrical engineer, in most cases, to use your cell phone or the internet. It's engaging. We love to kind of be able to, like we said, stay in touch. Did our kids get home safely? We can even monitor our home now with cameras, in our backyard, So it's engaging. It makes us feel powerful. We feel like that we have all this power, there, in the palm of our hand. We can talk, we can listen, we can text, we can make decisions. We can, again, check the stock market. We can see if our kids are home. We can see if our house is safe, whatever. And so it creates a sense of power. And not only that, but in some cases, it's fun. It's fun because, we can do games. We can, do trivia. We can call, people that we haven't heard from in a while. We can check our Facebook. We can, and then the list could go on. So these things make the cell phone use so addictive. But what are the negative results? And this is, I think, the concern of this caller. So if you're just tuning in, or this person wrote in this question, if you're just tuning in, we're looking at the fact that this particular parent has been made aware that maybe their child is addicted to their cell phone and to the internet. And so here's some negative results that have come from that. And we've all seen this. We've all had these experiences. So number one, ruined relationships. Somebody may post something about their political position or persuasion. Someone may post something that maybe was to be kept in confidence, and they post it online, or someone may respond in a way that is kind of negative, and so sometimes relationships are ruined over this. Things that should never be expressed, publicly are now being expressed, and now it causes embarrassment. So ruined relationships, which again leads to loss of friendships. Friendships that have been, for years are now lost because of things that were said, things that could not be, unseen now. The drop in grades. A lot of students, will spend all night on the internet playing a game, whatever, when they should be studying. They should be working on their paper. Loss of job. How many times has a professional, and I see this especially among teachers who are, and even pastors or whatever, who are in places they shouldn't be, and all of a sudden it's posted and there's a picture and there they are. I think, educators, pastors, other professionals, that are to live a certain standard or to have a certain standard, to keep a certain standard, when they find themselves, in places doing things, saying things, involved in things that many feel like they shouldn't be. And so they have this loss of job. I've seen parents lose custody of their kids because of things they posted on the internet or on Facebook or whatever it may be. And lawyers have used that against the parent. Of course, we've all heard of the affairs and the internet affairs that occur because of this. And so these are some of the negative results. Neurologically, it impairs your short-term memory. Wow. There was a day, and comedians make, jokes out of this, but there was a day when you had about, 20, 30, 40, 50 phone numbers memorized. Back in my day, you had everybody's phone number memorized, and you could recite, your best friends or your girlfriends or your parents or your uncles, your grandparents or your neighbors or whomever. You had their phone number memorized. But today, you don't have to. It's all there on your phone. You just say the person's name, and their phone number comes up. But it does impair the short-term memory. It impairs decision making. Neurologically, the more time you spend on your phone, the less likely you're to make really good, powerful, important, meaningful, positive decisions. Sometimes it reduces inhibition of inappropriate behavior. There are kids, teenagers, even adults who are doing things and saying things that they normally wouldn't via the internet. They get involved in behaviors they normally wouldn't. And for whatever reason, they do this because their inhibitions are reduced. And therefore it interferes with the insight to consequences. So a lot of kids, a lot of adults even do not see beyond what they're about to do and the consequences that it brings. We've all heard of the behavioral risks of the internet. In other words, 50% of all teenagers will post personal information.
Yeah.
And that, again, attracts internet predators and those who are willing to steal your identity. And that's a problem. So again, if you're just tuning in, this youth pastor had a concern about his student who was just, for whatever reason, seemed to be addicted to his phone. And we see that. Teachers see this. Student pastors see this. 66% of all teenagers experience cyberbullying. 66% of all teenagers experience cyberbullying via the internet. It is a lot, which again leads to what we said earlier, Facebook depression. When you're being bullied, when you're being stalked, when you're being compared to other people, when everybody around you is chronically complaining about you or about something you said, about something you did, or you lost the game, or you missed a meeting, or you whatever, that creates a type of Facebook depression, if you will. And again, as we said earlier, a lack of coping skills. When you are not doing things and learning things and enjoying things that are helpful, skillful, and fun, then it is a problem.
Well, since all of that is true, what can this parent do to help their kid?
So what do we do?
Yeah.
So glad you asked. So here's what we do. Number one, we do know this. We said earlier, the internet is a way of life. It's out there. It's in our homes. It's a lot of positives to it. But what to do is this: set for yourself goals for new skills. So again, maybe you want to take up, piano or guitar, or maybe you want to take up a martial art like karate or jiu-jitsu, or maybe you want to, recite, one of the smaller books of the Bible and be able to put it to memory, and so these are goals that you want to set for yourself. And so if you set these goals, and maybe if you have accountability to these goals, maybe you want to make a 4.0 this semester, whatever it may be, but set for yourself goals that are healthy and helpful and skillful. And when you do, then you put the internet down or the computer down, and you go out and you learn how to, shoot a basketball, or, learn how to change a tire, or you learn how to, change the oil in your car, or whatever it may be. But you set some goals, some new skills for your life. You learn how to do martial arts, or you learn how to play the guitar. But set goals and new skills for yourself. Number 2, sometimes family therapy is required. Sometimes, the entire family needs to restructure their environment, restructure maybe their overall schedule, maybe restructure their overall lifestyle. Maybe we should spend at least one weekend out of the month, going someplace and fishing, or going someplace and hiking, and going someplace and biking, or going someplace and just, learning and seeing different going to museums or whatever it may be. There was a day when people actually went to the library, okay, and they checked out books, and so family therapy sometimes may be helpful in creating this new way of structuring your life.
And I think it's great that you pointed out that it's family therapy, because it's not just the teenager
that needs
to make an adjustment.
Mom, Dad, you set the atmosphere.
They need a system that they can work within.
Yeah, Mom, Dad, you set the tone. You are the architects of the environment. Thirdly, have a season of technology abstinence. In other words, say between, after 7 o'clock, we're done. Or before 7 o'clock, between 3 and 7, no technology. Go outside, ride your bike, play sports, visit a friend, whatever. But have a season or a time of abstinence from the computer, from the cell phone. Mom and Dad, when you go out to eat, leave yourself in your car. Or at least one of you leave the cell phone in your car. Sometimes you need to set an alarm. In other words, parents, if your kids love, their computer or whatever, they love, their tablet, whatever it may be, say, okay, but from 5 to 6, you can be on it, but after 6, but you set the alarm. When the alarm goes off, everybody knows we pick up our tablets, we pick up our laptop, we pick up our phone, whatever it may be. Sometimes grandparents, when the grandkids come in, they say, give me your phone, okay? And they put their phone, on top of the refrigerator, so the kids aren't just, looking down, on the sofa for the next 5 hours while they're visiting their grandparents and never looking up. Maybe sometimes you need to list what has been lost. List what has been lost because of the internet. We haven't talked in a while. We haven't spoken in a while. We haven't engaged in a while. We haven't done these things. So list what has been lost because of the cell phone, because of the internet, and that'll help you to realize, we need to kind of get back to the basics, if you will. Get back to talking again, get back to going outside again, getting back to riding our bikes again, whatever it may be. And then last of all, and again, this is no particular order, but minister to others. Minister to each other. I think we have lost the art of maybe inviting someone to church, or cutting someone else's grass, or giving someone some sort of blessing, and learning how to do that. Going and visiting your parents, going and visiting your kids, going and just taking a weekend and doing something enjoyable. Putting your phones away, putting the computer away, but just minister to those around you. The point simply is this. It was interesting that this student pastor noticed this, because again, many pastors, student pastors, counselors, teachers, as I said earlier, are noticing that our kids just seem to have their heads down, staring at this screen for sometimes hours on end, never looking up, and it's starting to affect us. In every way, but also spiritually. So get your Bibles out, go to church on Sunday morning, have dinner with your spouse. It's, a new day as far as we have a little more time, outdoors because of the change of time, and just enjoy what God has given you. Internet's great. But again, it can be addictive. Be careful of that.
Well, there you have it from the family Answer Man himself, how to handle the challenges of internet and technology addiction. And we hope, as always, that this episode of the Family Answer Man will help you to have a healthier, stronger, happier family.